So, this is late January, and I'm going to just talk about a couple of things quickly, which are what I would call engineering explanations to medical mysteries. I'm not proposing that I have a massive amount of medical training, because I don't, but I have had a health condition, and it has given me an interesting insight into the way that the medical world works. And I've discovered that not only are doctors and lawyers very similar in that they are viewed as, and some of them view themselves as, an elite at university. You tend to find them vying with each other for who's smartest or this, that, the other. But this carries on in life, and there are some very big similarities between the two groups. One of the similarities is that, and I'm not saying they're alone in this, but they have this thing where the precedents do not get upset easily. Not presidents as in United States, precedents as in things that are done a certain way. The protocol of doing stuff doesn't get changed easily, and the viewpoint of things doesn't get changed easily. So if you wonder why leeches were around for so long in the old days, and as one GP said to me, it wasn't that long ago that we had the old days, it's because for one professional doctor to contravene another professional doctor's view, consultants, for example, you probably don't know this, but it's part of their code of conduct not to openly criticise another consultant's diagnosis. So don't be surprised if when you have a problem that's quite different to what a consultant came up with, or there's something wrong with what he or she said, that another consultant, even if they're completely diametrically opposed to what was said, doesn't stand there agreeing with you how awful the other consultant is. That won't happen. So I just want to put a couple of ideas out there, because I am a believer that if you think about things and you think logically about them and you know enough about it, you can probably come up with a reasonable answer for why things are. You can also wander dangerously into the field of Scientology, and that's not somewhere you want to go. So when I don't have enough information about it, or don't feel I have a reasonable point of view, I'm not going to give it. But there are three things that I have noticed over time. There are engineering explanations for these medical mysteries. So one thing I'll start with is the appendix. You know, that thing that flares up, it's always on the left side, it flares up, it's in your gut somewhere, near your gut, and you have to go to hospital to have it out because it's like urgent, because it gets inflamed and poisonous, and if it bursts you're quite often going to die if you don't have medical treatment. So if you don't know this, if you're a younger person, sudden pain in the bottom left side of your gut, that is where the appendix lives. So it's a hospital job if that happens. Usually it'll come to a peak within the space of an evening, and you will be in such pain that you will want to go to hospital. It is an emergency job, so don't be shy of calling an ambulance if that's what happens. But it's like a little stalk that sticks out of the gut. Now there is no proper explanation for it. Some people say it's something to do with mankind's old immune system or something, because sometimes they think it can get food trapped in it and blah blah. There's all sorts of maybes, but I've got an idea that is much more straightforward. When you mould plastic, I know you're going to say, what? When you mould plastic, there is a little thing hangs off a length of plastic, and the moulded thing that you have made hangs off it. This is not the world of 3D printers. This is where you have a bottom of a moulding, a top of a moulding, and there's precisely machined gaps in it so that when you squirt plastic in, the thing forms a shape, like Airfix kits. You get half an aeroplane, or you get part of a wing, or a submarine or something. Right. It hangs off of a frame that is plastic, and a little thing, a little bit of plastic, a node of plastic hangs off, or several nodes, and they hold the bit that you have to waggle to break off. So the name for this plastic surround and the little bit of sticky out plastic that holds the part you're after, the name for it, the bit that you discard, is called the sprue. And in effect, what happens is the sprue is where the plastic moulding that you want grows from. In other words, that's the little gap that the plastic gets injected through. It makes some sense that the appendix is a piece of sprue. The gut has to grow from somewhere. Now, I don't know if the appendix originally started as attached to the tummy button or anything like that, because obviously that's where nutrients used to go in. Maybe that's possible, I don't know. But it certainly strikes me that the appendix doesn't have a purpose as such, but it did have a purpose back when you were an embryo or small enough before you started growing, because the first thing an animal needs is nutrients. So the first thing a creature needs, the most basic creatures, jellyfish, worms, take a worm. It all is just one big gut. You can't get any simpler than a food absorbing mechanism producing energy and muscle contraction and expansion, which is a worm. So, or as we say in Scotland, a worm. So that's the most basic you can get, and to me it strikes me that the gut would have to grow first in a human being, and that the appendix could well be a piece of sprue. I'm saying that's what it looks like. And it looks to me like maybe that was where the whole gut started growing from. So that's my explanation. That's the first engineering explanation for a medical mystery. If you don't know what it's for, I'm saying that's a reasonable explanation as to why it has no purpose, seemingly, when you're someone physically devolved from your parent, and why it maybe did used to have a use when you were embryonic and within the womb. Number 2, the duodenum. We're back with the gut again. There's a gland inside the gut, I believe its name is the duodenum, and it's in the lower part of the intestine. I've looked for an explanation of why it does what it does, but nobody's come up with one. So I thought about it, and I thought, well, that makes perfect sense. I am a believer in God. Now, the Darwin thing is just a mechanism, if you think about it, that animals and plants can evolve a bit from what they were originally designed or created as, by chance, if you want to believe that it's all by chance. I believe it's too complicated, and things are so well designed, I think it's a little bit more than an accident. But Darwin is just a mechanism, so there's nothing at odds with Darwin saying that you also believe in God. The duodenum is, at the lower part of your gut, the job becomes not removing energy from the food and nutrients, but getting rid of an oblong shaped thing that we call a stool. And you've got to get rid of that stool, that object, that plastic object has to be got out of the body. Now, there's one thing for sure, you cannot put a dry hard stool through a dry hard tube that is stretched over it. That can't work. So you need lubrication. And the duodenum, would you believe, what it is medically accepted as doing, in point of fact, what it does, though nobody said what its job is, I'm about to tell you, it takes fatty acids and takes fats from the stomach contents, and it kind of short circuits the gut and filters out these fatty bits, and then squirts it, injects it gently into where the stools are beginning to form. Well, what is fatty oily stuff in a tube that something's got to go through but lubricant? So that's my second engineering explanation as to what a medical mystery is that solves it, which is that the duodenum it's a lubricating thing. I mean, they've got a thing in motorcycles called a Scott oiler. It just drips oil all the time onto the chain of a motorcycle so that the chain lasts longer. Well, I put it to you, without lubrication, your stools cannot go through your system. And it makes perfect sense that by accident, if you believe that, or by design, you would design in something to lubricate the passage of stools through the lower gut and then out. So that's the second explanation. The duodenum is a lubricating tube, and it's not very complicated. Once you think like that, you start saying, oh, right, and it makes sense. Somebody finds a better reason, by all means, but my reason fits the facts. The third thing is REM, not the band, there's no solution to the band, but REM, rapid eye movement. It's a part of sleep. They call it REM because during this part of sleep, you're in deep sleep, and they reckon it's when you dream, but I thought that was when you wake up. But apparently, they don't know what the reason is why you have rapid eye movement. For those of you that don't know, you can see somebody when they're in deep sleep and their eyes move underneath their eyelids, and their eyelids might move as well. And there is no medical explanation for why people do this, but I have got one, and it's not complicated, and it's based on evidence that I've had. I've had to do work where I'm under the floor of houses, or I'm cutting stones and stuff with a stone cutter, a lot of dust. You can't always get this dust out of your eyes when you wash, even if you have a bath or a shower, you can't always get rid of it. And if I've had grit, and this has happened several times, in my eyes and just couldn't get it out, you wash it with a teacup and egg cup, and the whole thing with warm water in it, you can't get it out. What you do is you go to bed. And when you wake up in the morning, lo and behold, a crust of grit will have appeared at the corner of your eye, and your eye will be clear of the grit. And so I put it to you, it's not complicated. If your eyes are shut, there's only a small amount of movement of your eyelids there can be. So to get the same effect, your body, to me seems obvious, flicks the eyeballs up and down and all around, and in effect, that seam there with your eyelids close together acts as a bit to trap the fine bits of grit that you were previously unable to get out. And the faster they swivel, it's just like a windscreen wiper system, but instead of the windscreen wipers moving, your eyelids moving, the windscreen's made to move. Your equivalent of a windscreen being your eyeballs. And whenever it's happened to me, I've woken up and the grit's formed in a crust here. And, to me it's quite obvious. Rapid eye movement is your body's way of making sure your eyes get properly deep cleaned before you face the next day. And in fact, you will find, if you notice it, your eyesight is usually a lot better first thing in the morning. You really can literally see more clearly. And that's it. Those are 3 medical mysteries solved with engineering explanations. I'm sure there's plenty more. And now that medical consultants have begun to accept bits of engineering into their world, it'll get a lot better now, I think. Thanks for watching and listening.